Welcome to Holy Health, the podcast where cutting-edge health insights meet timeless biblical wisdom. Join us as we explore the latest in wellness, fitness, and mental health, all while grounding our journey in the spiritual truths and guidance found in the Torah. Whether you're looking to nourish your body, mind, or soul, we'll help you live a life of balance, vitality, and faith. Tune in to discover how to achieve holistic health through the perfect blend of modern science and ancient wisdom. Let's dive into the fullness of life, body, and spirit together. Hey guys, welcome back to Holy Health. I know it's been a minute. I think it's been a good 3-4 weeks since we put out a new episode, but I definitely felt like putting out an episode last Thursday on Tisha B'Av would not have been the right move. And I actually think that this week's episode fits perfectly with its timing as it's coming out the day after Tu B'Av, which I know sometimes people refer to as the Jewish Valentine's Day. But today's episode is definitely going to make you think. It might upset some of you. It might overjoy some of you, but what I'm always trying to do is give you information that, love it or hate it, gets you to think. Today, we are talking about natural birth control, but within this episode, Lauren and I do start to discuss what happens from some of these other methods. How could some of these other methods of birth control possibly be negatively affecting your body? And some of you may get upset about this. Some of you may disagree with this. And that's okay, because as Edan points out in the Torah Extra, we are a religion of disagreements. That's the basis of Gemara, right? People sitting around, all these people that sit and learn every day, all day, they're often having discussions within their learning and disagreements within their learning. We have Hillel and Shammai. We've often not agreed. But I learned from my Rav Shlomo Katz, that a vikuach l'shem shamayim, or an argument that's in the name of the heavens, is an argument where even if you don't agree with somebody, you still love them no matter what. And I don't expect all of you guys to always agree with the things that I put out, but I want these things to make you think. I want you guys to hear things that maybe you don't agree with, but I want that to make you do some of your own research. Look around, listen, and decide what feels right to you. And sometimes learning these things actually might bring up more questions and make you a little bit more unsure. But stop for a minute, breathe. We've talked a lot about breathing, and listen to your gut, because I've always found that your gut does not steer you wrong. So regardless, I hope you guys will enjoy today's episode. I hope that it will make you think. And I want to tell you a little bit about today's guest that we are lucky enough to have with us. So my first guest is Lauren, and Lauren is a traditional midwife, fertility educator, and the founder of Wise Women's Choice Natural Birth Control. After suffering from her hormonal birth control, discovering better ways, Lauren began the path of teaching women the art of fertility awareness and the effective natural tools we have available. Along this path, she discovered and began to use and share a priceless resource for natural contraception, or hormone-free cream that effectively prevented pregnancy with no harmful side effects. After years of working together with the Holocaust survivor, Harvard scientist who created the cream's formula, Dr. Francoise Ferrin, she passed the formula and rights to produce the cream to Lauren at 99 years old. Together with her chemist husband, Roe, Lauren has carried on the work with this life-saving resource, producing it in Costa Rica, where they live, and sharing it internationally through their website. The movement they're building to share education and empowerment around natural birth control and liberate women everywhere from harmful side effects and the grave health risks of hormonal birth control continues to grow through ongoing educational initiatives and their newly released Education Forward Fertility Awareness app, Wise Women Fan, now available on both Apple and Android in English, Hebrew, Spanish, Arabic, and beyond. We are super lucky today to have one of my favorites, Edan. She's not green any longer. She's now Yarmish, and I'm really excited to have her back. Edan is young. She may only be 25. She's not even, how old is Edan? 24, 25 years old. But since almost episode 1 of this podcast, Edan has been bringing us beautiful, beautiful takes on different Torah ideas. And today is absolutely no exception. So Edan is very modest. She doesn't send me a very long bio. Edan is a Torah educator. She works currently in a middle school in Ariel, and she also works in several different Torah education programs. One of those programs I know is Torah Cafe. I'm going to put a link to Torah Cafe into the show notes. And I want you guys to take a look at Torah Cafe and what they do. And I know that they can possibly use donations if anybody is looking beyond the typical things that they're used to donating, Torah Cafe would be a great place to give a small donation to and help people like Edan continue to help me here on this show. Okay, guys, I'm looking forward to hearing your comments. And many of you have still not followed us on YouTube, on Spotify, on Instagram. Follow us all of the places. But even more importantly, give us a like or a dislike if you're on YouTube, whatever you want, and drop a comment because all of these things help us get this information out to the wider world. I believe there are so many people that could benefit from these episodes. So thank you so much. And I want to wish you guys a Shabbat Shalom. Hey everyone, welcome back to Holy Health. I am so excited to have Lauren here today. We are going to be talking about a subject that I've really been wanting to speak about for a while. We're going to be talking about the subject of hormonal birth control and why the natural alternative that Lauren and Roe have created is should be a far better choice for us. So Lauren, I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
Thank you so much. So before we get into the nitty gritty of what is most birth control that people are taking and what's the difference between your product, can I just ask you how you got into this field?
Well, I'm a midwife, so I was spending years accompanying women along their journey with birth, postpartum, all the things. And along this journey, I had gotten off hormonal birth control after a decade of being on it myself. And I realized that I had kind of found the way to not need it at all. And I had this revelation that, I'm so passionate about healing what is birth in our world and how women experience this rite of passage, but that there are millions of women out there suffering just like I did from hormonal birth control because they also don't know the way there. So I spent like a year of devoted study to everything natural birth control, to formal fertility awareness instruction, and I created a course and I started teaching women's circles to share this. And along this path, I discovered some amazing resources that my work just got deeper and deeper with these resources because they were changing my life and changing the life of my entire community. So it kind of started off like that and then just grew and grew.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to understanding what the difference is. Can you talk to me a little bit about, most people, I think, when they think of birth control, obviously there are so many different things. There's pills and there's creams and there's condoms and there's all these different things. But I think when it comes to birth control and hormonal birth control, the first thing that comes to mind is the pill. So can you talk to me a little bit about like what's in it? Why might some people have issues with it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hormonal birth control, because the other hormonal birth controls are quite similar to the pill and what they contain. These contain hormonal synthetic hormones that are derived from petroleum. So even the name like bioidentical hormones is a misnomer because these are not made from natural substances. It's made from petroleum products. And so when you're on the pill, it's a synthetic estrogen, and you're never actually getting a progesterone, a true progesterone, because your body needs to ovulate to then begin releasing progesterone. And in these pills, even a progesterone only pill is what's called progesterone. So it's a fake progesterone that doesn't give our body the same benefits as actual progesterone. And what it's doing is it's essentially cutting off our connection with our brain and our ovaries in our womb. So where our brain is, because of these synthetic hormones, no longer signaling to our ovaries to ovulate each month. And so we're not ovulating, which ovulation is a biomarker of a healthy woman. It's showing that, we're fertile, that we are a woman. And what's involved in ovulation is so much deeper than just the releasing of the egg. It's an entire hormonal symphony that's being cut off. And so this takes us out of our true nature. And the scientists have actually discovered that the womb is like a third brain. They say that the gut is like your second brain, and your womb is also a form of intelligence. And so we're cutting off the connection that women have from their womb intelligence to their brain. And the effects that we're seeing on women are really intense, and it's been overlooked for generations, where, women didn't even know that this was the cause of their problems. And women, are made out to be, women are just crazy, they're unbalanced, whatever. No, these hormones are chemically and structurally manipulating our brains. So some of the effects we see on this are, for one, it causes what's called a blunted cortisol response. And so cortisol is what happens when we experience stress. And then our body releases cortisol in order to respond to that stress. Users of hormones no longer have a proper cortisol response, and it may be blunted entirely. The crazy thing about this is that this is the same type of brain chemistry we see in people with like serious PTSD and trauma. So it's basically given women a traumatized brain state, which also affects their ability to learn and remember. So it's affecting us deeply at this level, but it's also these hormones that are manipulating our brains in a chemical fashion are manipulating the version of ourselves that we're both creating and experiencing. So they're essentially taking us out of our true essence. And this ripples out into everything. Because I believe that the true essence of woman is, the seed of God in her, the seed of the holy, and what she came to share with this world. And so when it's blunted, and when it's altered, it not only is she taken out of her essence, she's put in a more masculine state of mind, both chemically and structurally. So I find this very interesting, especially in the context of postpartum, because women are given the pill at 6 weeks postpartum and then sent back to work. Now, normally any mammal, if you try and separate from them from their baby, they'll get violent, and they absolutely wouldn't do it or be able to do it. And now we as a society have medicated women to be able to take the unnatural action of leaving their babies very, very young. And I don't think this would be possible without the chemical manipulation of the brain that's going on, because it's not seen in any other mammal. But these hormones, estrogen dominance, when we're pumping our bodies full of this synthetic estrogen, this is why the pill, or hormonal birth control in general, is considered a class 1 carcinogen, because this is contributing to a much higher instance of breast cancer, cancers in general, and these things carry risk beyond that. It's insane what we're exposing ourselves to, because the original trials of the birth control pill, 3 or 4 women died. There were no autopsies, and it was determined that it was safe and effective and released to the public. Now, decades later, hundreds of women die in the U.S. alone from hormonal birth control each year, just in the U.S., and just what's documented. And this is happening from pulmonary embolism. This is happening from heart attacks. This is happening from blood clots, And with the NuvaRing and Yasmin being the top offenders, by the way.
Wow.
But globally,
Yasmin is a pill, right? Yasmin is a pill.
And the NuvaRing is a hormonal ring that you put inside. So it's not safe. It might be effective, but there's still a failure margin with them. What women are experiencing that's rampant is depression and anxiety. So this is another way that hormonal birth control is taking us out of our true essence. And this is what happened with me. I became so depressed on the last pill that I was on that I couldn't get out of bed till 1 PM. I was like suicidal. I'm a super joyful person. And I felt like cut off from God, cut off from myself. I felt like there was like a concrete wall in front of me. I thought about ending my life every day. And I knew something was wrong, And this is like 80% of hormonal birth control users are experiencing depression. That's millions of women. These are mothers and sisters and friends that are all like under this heaviness. It's a darkness. And it's very interconnected. They say that the risk for suicide goes up 300%.
Wow.
300%. And we're seeing a rampant, rise in suicide rates. And it's because we're being altered, And so it's very concerning because, these pills, they were given to me as a teenager without a word that there were any risks. It took me 10 years to realize that there was anything going on with me. And yet we have young women dying from it. There's a giant lawsuit right now against Depo-Provera, which were like the shots. And this is a hormonal form of birth control. This caused thousands of brain tumors in women. There were 18,000 brain tumors documented in one French study alone. And so this is what we're exposing ourselves to. So we think that it's like we're being responsible. You know, it's very ingrained in us that birth control and condoms are how we stay safe and how we are responsible. And there, it couldn't be farther from the truth. Like, yes, we're called to take care of our fertility and to honor ourselves by you know, like being in tune with this and stepping into empowerment around consensual motherhood. Absolutely. But there are natural ways that have always existed and that have been heavily repressed and continue to be repressed. But to equate responsibility with taking, you know, risks that could kill you or destroy your mental health, you know, or one thing that's also rampant is that it's causing women to pick the opposite type of partner than would be beneficial for procreation. So when we have this fake estrogen going, we're picking partners with much lower testosterone markers, much more effeminate partners. And I've read studies, which are now quite buried online, showing the offspring of hormonal birth control users actually being less healthy by all markers concerned. And there's an epidemic of women getting married, getting, you know, and getting off the pill because they're ready to have babies, and then they're no longer attracted to their partner. Like, as in, they don't even like his smell anymore because it's affecting what's called our neurohistamine genes. It's affecting a gene expression, which is how we pick up on the pheromones of one another.
Okay, because I've interviewed someone who basically just said that the biggest issue in marriage today, it was a relationship expert who says, is that, you know, women are too masculine and men are too much in their feminine. So I don't know if that's something like you're saying, maybe it's a possibility it's being caused, you know, by the pill, but there has to be other factors besides just that, because there are plenty of people, let's say, especially in the Orthodox community, where they're not necessarily taking pills before they get married. Maybe they'll take it just to regulate their cycle before they get married, but they haven't been taking it consistently for so many years. So I think there has to be more to it, although maybe a piece of it is what you're saying. Maybe a piece of it could be coming from women taking these pills, but that's not affecting the men being too feminine. Does that make sense?
Well, there are a couple of very interesting factors that absolutely affect this. One is an environmental factor, which is we are peeing out these hormones. These hormones don't get transmuted back into nature through our bodies. They're peed out as the hormones, and they go into the water supply by the millions all day, every day. And so we're seeing the feminization of the masculine and an imbalance around, you know, gender expression and sexuality in general because of this, because the whole population is being manipulated through these hormones. And not only that, but for example, you know, when you have a population of trees or flowers and the male's like releasing you know, what am I trying to say? When a woman is on hormonal birth control, she's no longer cycling naturally. This means she's no longer releasing the natural pheromones showing, hi, I'm fertile, come make me pregnant. This isn't happening. So the natural, you know, arousal of the male species, you know, like think in a high school classroom, this is not happening anymore because the grand majority of women are being medicated to no longer release these things. And then we're seeing like infertility because we're being manipulated on this chemical level to where even our smell is no longer functioning the way nature designed it to function.
Okay. First of all,
crazy?
It's all crazy. And I want to go back just a minute to the fact that you were talking about hormonal birth control suppressing a woman's natural hormones. So somebody that's taking these pills for 20 years or 30 years or 40 years, like I'm 57. I have friends who are in their 50s, like, you know, in perimenopause, you know, who are not yet in menopause, who still are using hormonal birth control. But basically what you're saying is for so many years, because I do have friends who were told by their doctors who clearly don't understand, you know, hormone replacement therapy, that no, you don't need hormone replacement therapy because, you know, you've still got a ring or you've still got an IUD with hormones, or you're taking, you know, you don't need progesterone because your IUD has progesterone. But yet what you're saying is they're not getting real hormones, and it's actually suppressing the body's own ability to be able to make or release its own progesterone.
Yeah, I mean, when you hijack a woman's system for 10, 20 years, and then you just expect her to get off it and be, I'm fertile tomorrow, like her whole body's just going to snap back and understand what to do. Like, this is a problem because that's not how it works. And for many women, after being on the pill for 10 or 20 years and wanting to have a baby, and they've been told, no, it won't affect your fertility at all. And then they can't have a baby. And then they'll be continued to be told by the medical industrial complex that no, birth control didn't cause this. You're just flawed and infertile. But this is a lie. And it's a lie that they're spending billions of dollars to cover up because it directly feeds into the IVF. It directly feeds into a customer for life. Like birth control to me is the on-ramp to the medicalization of the womb. And, it's taking us from, we need something outside of ourselves. We need the doctor's advice for how to manage our fertility. And then it becomes normalized that we need them to, prod us with giant instruments and put us into pain and be in our intimate space, so that we can be healthy. We need them to scrape our cervix with cancer-giving chemicals to help us be healthy. Two, we need them to manage our birth, and then we need them to medicate us with more hormones because we're going to be crazy in menopause. And it's like, we as women have the power to live in harmony. And it's not that women don't ever need anything outside of ourselves. Nature gave us herbs, and there's a way to live to where you take care of yourself through your connection with nature, through your connection with other women, through your connection with your womb, through nutrition, like through connection with your fertility, that will give you empowerment, that will give you harmony with your body. When a woman lives in harmony and empowerment, she has generally a beautiful birth experience. She has generally pain-free periods. She's not suffering. But when we become so imbalanced, we become medicated, we become dependent on systems that don't have our best at heart. This is when we experience tons of unnecessary suffering. Women have been suffering at the hands of this medical complex for generations now, and it wasn't always this way. Before, women were supporting each other in birth. The wisdom of fertility was being passed down mother to daughter, sister to sister. The wisdom of how to go through menopause. Your grandmother taught you this. They had circles of women supporting you. You weren't alone in it because you were part of a village. And this has been greatly lost. And this is a big part of the reclamation that I wish to see in the world, and that I'm every day working towards, because our well-being isn't as simple as, one resource or one pill or one philosophy. We are knit together in a web where, of community, of our relationship with nature, of, our relationship with spirit. And when this is healed, like, this is true holistic health, is like the fullness of well-being of the woman. And this is why birth control is such an issue, because it attacks us at the core of who we are by altering our essence, by oftentimes making us feel far from spirit, cut off, not our true selves, lost, suicidal, and this is why this is such a core issue to me.
So talk to me about what it is that you guys have created. Or maybe it wasn't you that created. I think
Yeah.
you've talked to me about this.
So years ago, I was looking to see who else was doing anything with natural birth control, and I discovered this cream. And it was actually, this formula of this cream was created by a Harvard scientist who was actually a Holocaust survivor. And she had created what used to be called Smart Woman's Choice. And, I saw an example of how this cream that you put inside of you effectively stops sperm. And I was like, I want it. I wanted to, share with my community and my women's circles. This is what I'm looking for. Because before that, I was using neem oil, which is actually a very powerful natural spermicide that has been used for thousands of years. But neem oil has a very funky smell. So this was always kind of like a barrier to enjoyment for me. And this cream was all natural, no hormones, no harmful side effects, and it was being claimed to be almost 100% effective. So I wanted this so I could use it and not have to deal with the smell, basically. So I got in touch with this doctor who was then in her 90s and share with her what I was doing. I actually got to teach her about our fertility because she didn't know. And she sent me a bunch of this product to use and to share with my circles and my community. And so over a couple years, everybody in the community was using it basically and loving it. No pregnancies. I was using it. It was great. And I approached her to get more, and she was like, well, you can have more, but you'll have to make it yourself. And I'm like, what? So she had kind of gotten in a lawsuit with a younger woman who was running her business. She was 99 at the time.
Oh.
And the FDA was also trying to shut them down. And I live in Costa Rica, so she wanted me to start producing it in Costa Rica that we could legally serve the world from here. And so Divine Providence just has it that my husband is like a brilliant chemist, and he was really excited. So I flew to San Diego to meet with her. And at 99 years old, she passed me the formula and permission to rebrand it and produce it here. And that's how we got started making what's now called Wise Women's Choice. The FDA did shut down Smart Women's Choice, because it was an unapproved drug, even though it's an all natural cream with only natural ingredients. There's no chemical ingredients whatsoever. And this was after they had served 20,000 people with less than 1% reported pregnancy rate and no harmful side effects. The only known side effect being irritation in like 2% of the users. And they shut it down as like a dangerous, harmful drug.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So now we produce it here, and we were blessed to have the approval of the Ministry of Health for pharmacy sales. So it's available in doctors' offices here, and we can sell it in pharmacies. We have it in shops, and we serve an international clientele from here.
So in other words, you're saying you can send it out anywhere. So if somebody from America or Israel wanted to order it, they're allowed to order it from you. You're just not allowed to sell it in America. And,
yeah, you know.
And Lauren's husband is Israeli, by the way.
Yeah, he's Israeli. You know, there are plenty of places where they would prefer us not sell it because of, you know, basically what's the medical mafia. But this is an all natural thing. This is like regulating the use of garlic for medicine. This is regulating the use of neem oil or, you know, sage. It's made from all natural ingredients. And not only that, but this cream actually goes back way farther than this doctor or us. You know, this cream has been used for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It was known as a cream soap or a cream paste, and it actually has Judeo-Arab roots. And this resource traveled via the midwives up to, you know, Europe, and during the Inquisition was entirely shut down. There are centuries of Vatican records showing investigation, persecution, and literally killing these midwives who were giving this effective contraception cream paste to women. And what this cream is, what Wise Woman's Choice is it's like a cream soap, and it's creamy, it's silky, it feels like a lubricant. You put a little bit inside right before penetration. This is our cream. You put in like this much. So this cream was given as like a dowry in Cairo in the 1500s. This cream was given to women after childbirth to space the timing of their babies so they didn't die from having baby after baby. And it was primarily Jewish midwives being investigated and killed. It's crazy. And then the ones who knew were too afraid to share the knowledge anymore, obviously because they're being killed. And then at the turn of the century in the 1900s, it was making a comeback. There were some pharmacies selling it. Even Margaret Sanger, who was doing Planned Parenthood, used to have it as a resource. And then with the rollout of petroleum-based spermicides and later hormonal birth control, clinics that were selling it under the table or pharmacies were closed down for it. There are records of midwives going to prison, being forced to hard labor for this cream. And again, you know, after these people are being made an example of, nobody who knows about it wants to share it. And so it's actually one of the oldest forms of birth control.
And I just want to say that if you hear of something being suppressed, that is the thing you should run towards and start investigating, because whenever something is being suppressed, it generally means there is something to it and there's someone that doesn't. And I know we sound like major conspiracy theorists because we probably are, but I am just telling you, you know, this podcast is done to give people education and knowledge and let them hear things that maybe I will say anything to anyone. Like maybe you're not going to hear it anywhere else, but I am telling you that if things are being suppressed, do yourself a favor and at least try to look into them more, because the people and the things that are being suppressed are very, very often the people who are telling the truth. And,
absolutely.
You know, Lauren, let me ask you, what's the problem with petroleum-based spermicide? Why is that a problem? Right? Like I was telling my friend about this product and she's like, well, it sounds like spermicide. Can't I just use spermicide?
Well, I mean, you can. Spermicide is not that effective. Like even if you use spermicide with the diaphragm, which it should always be used with the diaphragm or condom, spermicides are not very effective on their own. And even with a diaphragm, like diaphragms vary. Diaphragm with spermicide use varies in efficacy, but after having a baby, if you're using a diaphragm with the spermicide, it's down to like 70% effective, which is the same efficacy. Like it's less effective than pulling out, you know?
Right.
And conventional spermicides have what's called non-oxyl 9 in them. So maybe, and I experienced this because I never used a spermicide separately, but because we're told condoms are how to stay safe, you know, I was using condoms with a spermicide to be extra safe. And, you know, many women might have experienced the irritation that this gives you. And it smells gross, it feels gross, because it is gross, because it has non-oxyl 9 in it, which is a very toxic chemical that actually causes irritation to our, you know, gentle vaginal mucosa. You know, it causes us irritation and it makes us actually more susceptible to contracting sexual infections. So here we are using condoms, trying to be extra safe with a spermicide to be extra, extra safe. And it's making us more predisposed to contracting HIV or whatever we're trying to avoid. Like, this is madness. So it's not that the spermicides are so dangerous. It's one of the less dangerous. And now there are also some lactic acid based spermicidal gels. One is called Phexxi and one is called Kaya but these don't have very good efficacy. Like Phexxi was shown to be like 86% effective with general use, which for me, that's not really high enough for the protection that I'm wanting if I'm really trying to prevent pregnancy. And then there's Kaya or Contra which can be used with a diaphragm. It's made to be used with the diaphragm, but also it's not giving you super high efficacy rates. It's not giving you crazy hormonal side effects, but there are quite a list of side effects with Phexxi because it's keeping the vagina super acidic. It has a lactic acid and other acids in it, and it's, you know, sometimes causing UTIs, infections, burning. And that's better than, you know, making you want to kill yourself, right?
Right.
But, I don't know. You know, Wise Woman's Choice, we've sold, you know, thousands, and the makers of the same one had sold over 20,000 before us, with a less than 1% reported efficacy rate. So this is not the same as a clinical trial. I realize there could be a higher failure rate. However, you know, pills are only like, you know, 91 to 93% effective with general use. So that's like a 7 to 9% failure rate. And condoms fail 13% of the time with general use. So, you know, if we were just to be as effective as pills, that would mean I would have literally hundreds of pregnancies that weren't reported. And we offer a money back guarantee, like for the first couple of months. Like we're a very small business, and we're in touch with our people. So I don't think we have hundreds of unannounced pregnancies.
Sorry, I was just laughing. I was just laughing
that we've had.
Right. I was just laughing because you said a money back guarantee, and I was just thinking like, okay, you'll give them back their $9.95, or we could talk about what it costs. You'll give them back their $9.95, but they're going to be stuck with a baby. But like, so that just seemed funny.
Right. No, but in general, what I mean by that is that we hear from people if there's a problem,
right?
Because we have this guarantee, and this is like for the first 2 months. Obviously, if you don't like it, we'll give it back. It's not meant to be like, oh, we'll give you your $50 back if you get pregnant. It's not about that. It's about the fact that because we have this, that we have communication with our clients, and we hear if it irritates them, if they can't use it for any reason, we hear. So all that to say, I don't think I have hundreds of you know,
of babies
shared. And even if I did, we'd be at the same efficacy level as pills.
So would you consider doing a clinical trial, or the minute you do a clinical trial, it has to go through FDA? I mean, I should probably understand how these trials work.
We wish to do clinical trials. I'm not sure if you're aware of what that entails. There are 3 levels of clinical trials needed to pass, for example, the FDA. The first one is a clinical trial just for user safety, which we actually don't need that because we have hundreds of years of use, historical data showing that it's safe, as well as tests that have been done previously with other similar methods. And we have our user data. So we could possibly pass that one. And then you have one for first level efficacy, which is like a medium level trial. This is called phase 2. And then there's phase 3, which is like 4,000 people. So these are, you know, $3 to $10 to $20 million. You know, so right now we're actively working on looking for an investor so that we can take these steps. You know, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars of lab tests as well that we like to pursue. Right now, it's only been lab tested for efficacy, showing, you know, 100% sperm immobilization. You can see this video on our website. But we, to afford the level of lab tests that we would like to get is hundreds of thousands of dollars. So we're working on that, and we're working on which regions of the world we could effectively take steps to become medically recognized. Because to do this in America with the FDA looks like about a $200 million investment.
Wow.
Which effectively keeps, if someone has the cure to cancer, how are they going to pass it? If someone has the answer to birth control like we do, how are they going to pass it? And so, right now we continue to do this and make it available because it's the right thing to do, because women deserve this resource. And we will continue to do so under our approval here by the Ministry of Health. And as we proceed, we're looking at possibly partnering with farmers in different regions of the world. We recently went to Dubai with the cream and are looking actively for investors there to be able to take it there, because this is, it's still medically rigorous path, but it's not $100 million path, It's more of like maybe a $5 or $10 million path for the whole Middle East to open up. And so we're working on that, and we're also working on different regions where this historical basis of use would open up paths for us to be able to legally sell it as a birth control. But yeah, if you're out there and this connects with you and you'd like to be a part of this mission and you're an investor, please reach out, because this is a small family business. We've financed this entire thing from just ourselves and like a little bit of help from our moms. And so we're really at the point where, okay, we've been producing it for years, seen it's, effective, seen that there's nobody complaining of crazy side effects, using it ourselves for many years. And we're ready to take it to the next level. We now have a global patent, and we're working also on passing this patent in every different region and making bigger moves. But we're really ready to take on some partnership around that to make this resource available at the level that it, humanity deserves. Like right now, we're very niche, and that's cool. But yeah, and we like the idea really of a decentralized movement where we could just teach people around the world to make it. However, so much of the world still relies on, a doctor to recommend it to them to feel safe. And so much of the world doesn't have these small farmers markets where you can get something from your friend. There's a level of trust that comes with corporate production. And so we're seeing that we are going to have to go this path in a lot of the world.
Let me ask you, if someone from Big Pharma, one of the big pharmaceutical companies, came to you and they wanted to buy you out, what would you think of that?
I mean, we were really resistant to that for a long time because we're like, this is like the enemy. But what I've come to realize, especially after going to Dubai, because like I'm from the States, there's a lot of smaller producers of many things, of folk medicine and whatever. Even in Central America where we live, there's this presence. In Dubai, this doesn't exist, unless you are a big company, it doesn't exist. And we've looked for a way around this for years because we would like the money that could come from it to go into the pockets of real people, and real people could produce it in a safe and healthy way. And that's what we would wish. But then where's the level of trust? And the tentacles of the regulatory agencies go so deep that you cannot even say, this can prevent, fertilization. This can immobilize sperm. This could be used to control fertility. You can't even hint at it. That's how deep these tentacles go. And, I keep doing it because I'm a bit of a rebel and because I've been given this from God. And so I know that I'm on the right path despite the risks. But what I realize is that we need a pharmaceutical partner. We need someone at this level who can take it. And so what would be most important is that it not be shelved, because there have been prior very similar patents to ours that have just been shelved because they know they can make more money off hormonal birth control. Right. They can manipulate women to get them into the workforce, among other things, and make them clients for life. So it's much more profitable to mess with a woman's hormones, to make her reliant on her doctor, and have this cascade of interventions for her life than it is to give her a cream soap that's going to feel good to her body and that's it,
So what would you suggest? Let's just say, like I told you, there are a lot of, young women, Orthodox women who are taking hormonal birth control to regulate their cycle before they get married, right? To make sure that they don't have their period on their wedding night or that they're beyond, the time where you would need to go to the mikveh, that they're not spotting or staining. So I'm assuming there's nothing hormonal in this, so it's not going to change your hormonal cycle at all. I'm understanding that there'll be no impact to your natural hormonal cycle. So what would you suggest then for someone who doesn't want to take hormonal birth control but needs to regulate, or if somebody's cycle is not regulated? Because I know that's not what this cream is doing, but what would you suggest, having all your years of experience within this field?
So for someone who wants to regulate their cycle, I mean, some women have very, very weird cycles where they have a short one and a long. This is not what's most common. And the root of why women are going to regulate their cycle with a pill is because they don't understand how their cycle is working. We can understand our cycle very clearly through the lens of fertility awareness, which I believe goes hand in hand with the empowerment for women around birth control. Fertility awareness is a way of understanding your cycle. It shows you with crystal clarity when you're fertile each month, what your fertile window is, when that has passed. And this gives you the key to be able to have completely unprotected intercourse for about half of the month. Now, is fertility awareness the answer for the Orthodox community? Not necessarily by itself, because, you know, when we practice Tachigat HaMishpachah or whatever, when we are practicing this, we're often coming to mikveh night right in the midst of our peak fertility.
Right.
So then to say, okay, now with this method, you're going to abstain some more is not practical. Right. And this is what I dislike about fertility awareness in general, is that it's been said, this is the alternative to birth control. This is birth control. No, it's not. Because fertility awareness is asking you to abstain when you're fertile. Well, that's the birth control. You're abstaining. So of course it's, you know, almost 100% because you're abstaining. Now, our bodies, when they're functioning properly, you know, as red-blooded women, when we are fertile, this is when our bodies most want to make love. This is also when our bodies are signaling through our smell and our pheromones to our partner that it's time to make love. And so to say, okay, just abstain during that time, it's like torture. It's not empowerment. And so many couples then rely on condoms, which condoms, you know, this has been ingrained in us. How to stay safe is to use a condom. But condoms are full of toxic chemicals. These chemicals are released in us through exposure to heat and bodily fluid. And some of these are class 1 carcinogens that we're being exposed to. They're called nitrosamines. That, and, you know, to take it a level deeper, when we are making love, this is an electrical experience of sharing. Condoms are insulators, so they cut off this electrical exchange. And it's literally a barrier between you and your beloved. So, like, why are we so willing to, in the context of a sacred union, have a barrier between us? Why is that something that we're like, that sounds great? Only because it's been told us this is how you're responsible, this is how you're safe, and because we can't take hormones because they're so terrible for us. But this is not necessarily a safer way. You can find cleaner brands of condoms. So this is the way if you feel like you need to use a barrier. But with practicing fertility awareness, to get back to your question, circle back around, you can chart your cycle. You know, if you're especially looking for not wanting to have your period, or, you know, be nida for when you're getting married, you can absolutely know this ahead of time. You know, there are apps, and we're about to release an app in Hebrew and English and Spanish that's going to have a thorough education involved of exactly how to do this with not one, but 2 different methods of fertility awareness. And this is going to give you all the clarity you need to know when you're going to ovulate, like when are you ovulating, when are you fertile, and when is your period supposed to be? Because the amount of time from your last bleed up into ovulation is the same amount of time from your ovulation to your bleed. So you can effectively calculate that based on when you ovulate, which you can deduce by taking your temperature every morning when you wake up. This is called your basal body temperature. Now, if you do this for 6 months before you get married, a year, it becomes not only second nature, it becomes an awesome way for you to know when you're fertile or not, and then be able to take care of your birth control needs. You know, I recommend using, like, when you're fertile, using Wise Woman's Choice or neem oil. And if you want even an extra level of protection because you're being crazy safe, because both neem oil and the cream, you know, are immobilizing sperm in under a minute, you know, but there is an aspect to our fertility that when we are right at ovulation, our cervix, this door between our womb and our vaginal canal, actually opens, you know. So theoretically, if the male was right up against that and shot it in, then these methods that immobilize sperm, I think that this is how the 1% get pregnant with neem oil or with our cream. So you could pair it with pulling out. You could pair it just for a couple of days in your cycle when you know you're right at ovulation. This is the day that I use my cream or my neem oil and we pull out. Or my partner retains his semen, which is an even deeper level of where you can go with sacred sexuality, is learning how the man can control the release of the seed and be really a true partner in your birth control efforts, without hormones, without harmful side effects. Pulling out, if done properly, is like 94% effective. That's on par, higher than pills. Without doing it perfectly, it's lower efficacy, which is why you can pair this with neem oil or our cream and have almost 100% efficacy. Pulling out can be enhanced by peeing in between sessions, and really honoring, your bodily awareness. A man can also practice this by himself, his bodily awareness, which is something else that was never really taught to us. But this is true empowerment around our capacity to create life that shouldn't just be the responsibility of the woman. And this is a completely natural way that the man can also be empowered and that they can work together, which is so powerful because it also builds trust in the relationship. It builds a solidarity. It builds a harmony in which we are preventing together and then we are consciously choosing to bring children together. And this is powerful. It's beautiful. And it changes our entire experience of what it is to get pregnant or prevent pregnancy,
Yeah.
But yeah, all that to say is once you start tracking your cycle, you can absolutely know how long your cycle is going to be. If you've tracked your cycle for a year, my cycle's 21 days, my cycle's 28 days, my cycle's 27 to 29 days. And you can effectively gauge for when you're going to bleed and when you're going to be nida. It comes in patterns, right. Very few women are all over the place. And if you are all over the place, okay, then you maybe choose to do the pill a little bit just for around your wedding time, if that's your concern. Right. But in general, you don't need this. Like, your own body can tell you all this information and does every month.
Right. People just have to be willing to listen, and not everybody's, likes to do that. You have to be willing to do a little bit of work and track a little. I will say that according to, Orthodox Judaism, the man can't just pull out because that's spilling his seed. So I think that, and the same goes for condoms, like only in certain cases, or if we're talking about halacha, like we're talking about clear halacha, only in certain cases can people use condoms and things like that. So we're opening this conversation, not just within the Orthodox community, but to things that go on in the wider world. And that's absolutely perfectly fine. I am curious to know, how long does an application of the Wise Women's Choice last?
So you put it in right after foreplay, and it lasts through one session. Each application is good for one ejaculation. Now, we do say if you're going to have many position changes that involve pulling out and repenetrating, put some more. Or if you're a tantric master and you make love for 6 hours, like, throw some more in. It is like, use common sense. You want to put it in and apply it to your cervix, which, if you're not familiar with what your cervix feels like, because most of us were never taught to feel this, it feels like a nub at the back of your vaginal canal. So like I just said, this is like the door between our vaginal canal and our womb. So it's important to apply it there exactly for when it's starting to open, approaching ovulation. And this will help it to be the most effective it can be. So yeah, I mean, it's a very simple method. You leave it in for a little while, maybe 10 minutes afterwards, and then rinse it out with water. And this will allow the vaginal microbiome to, return to its natural balance, which is important to maintain. Right. It's all natural. However, this is a really delicate place. So it's always nice to just rinse it out with water afterwards. Also, because semen can also throw off your vaginal microbiome. So you're just rinsing this out afterwards with water.
Okay. And where is it available? Like, people can get it just from your website, or if they're in Costa Rica. Like, if someone in Israel wanted to order it, do you ship to Israel?
Yeah, absolutely. We ship to Israel. We have users all over Europe, Mexico, the States, Canada. In the Middle East, we have users. It's pretty crazy. We have a presence in South Africa. So it's pretty international. I mean, there are exceptions. We tried to send to Rwanda once and it didn't work.
Oh gosh.
But it's pretty international. It's like $35 shipping to Israel. So the best is like get it with some friends so you don't have to pay so much for shipping. Or we have discounts when you buy two, to make it more affordable. Um, and yeah, there is a shop in Jerusalem that I actually don't know the name of that has it in Israel, but I'm not sure if they have any left right now. So the best way to get it in Israel is just to order through our website. And
Oh,
yeah, as we make progress with, regulations around the world, we'll be able to have it with doctors and shops. But right now, doctors and shops are only happening in Costa Rica. We do actually have it in some shops in like the Netherlands and in South Africa. But other than that, we have one kind of incognito place in Jerusalem, but it's a gray line right now. And so
right. That's what it
we're
sounds
trying
like.
to
I
stay
don't.
compliant as much as we can so that we can,
Right.
eventually pass these things.
Yeah, I've heard the Ministry of Health laws are not so easy here for natural products, is my understanding. There's pretty
Yeah.
strict regulation here. So, okay, so we'll definitely attach. So, where's the best place for people to find you? What is your website?
Is wisewomenschoice.com.
Okay, that's easy. And obviously, we'll attach it, within the show notes. And let me ask you, what does spirituality mean to you?
I mean, for me personally, spirituality is like every breath, I mean, I believe I believe God is in absolutely everything, every situation that happens to me, every word that's spoken, everything, every flower, every life that comes, every death that comes, every hardship that comes. And so I really personally relate to God as the beloved and kind of have a mystic relationship with that presence in every second of my life, and I really enjoy to give thanks and praise and to be in connection and to talk with this presence like a friend and to listen to it and to let it guide me and rely on it. Like I rely on God for provision. I rely on God to show me the way. Like, I don't know. I have a really special path with God. That's a whole nother podcast. But
Well,
it's kind of like all of life to me is spirituality. There's not like this is spiritual life and this is real life. It's all one.
well, this is a very spiritual topic to me, meaning we're talking about creating life, or in a certain sense, maybe creating life when it's the right time. And this is obviously just the whole topic is a very spiritual topic in general. And anybody who's been doing the work you've been doing for so many years, to be a midwife, helping people give birth, that's a spiritual experience in itself. So thank you so
Yes, I
much.
really believe that, the womb is a very sacred space. The Sanskrit word for vagina is yoni, which means sacred space. And the fact that we have been so disconnected from this and that everything around our womb has been transitioned into pain, like painful, abused birth, like periods are dirty and shameful, like take these horrible pills for, it's taken us out of a place of like honor and connection to our wombs, which is like very literally a multidimensional portal inside of us where beings come from the unseen into the seen realm. Like this is magic. And this is another aspect of birth control that I share with people. Like conceiving a baby is so much deeper than just sperm meets egg. Like it's multidimensional. We can't fully understand it. And so when you want to prevent pregnancy, especially naturally, it's important to get the spiritual clarity. Like, do you want a child now or not? Have
Right.
this conversation with your partner. Don't just assume. Make this declaration out loud to God, to the spirit of your children, whatever. Hey, I'm not ready for you right now. You're not welcome. You'll be welcome later. Or we're inviting you. We're ready for you. We want to receive you. We're singing to receive you, whatever it is. But there is such a beauty way of walking through our bleed, of honoring this time every month for prayer, for connection. There's such a beauty way of experiencing childbirth. Like it can be ecstatic. It is the closest I've ever come to God. And this is being stolen from women. These are all divine rites of passage that bring us deeper and deeper into our power as women. And it's sacred. And this is why Wise Woman's Choice, the heart of it is bringing back the sanctity of the womb, you know, and the holiness of the sisterhood. Like through sisterhood, through women's circles, we wish to share, sacred feminine wisdom that's been really quite literally taken from us, and resources for every stage of women's life. So with this app that we're releasing, we're going to have a monthly women's circle where I'm going to have
Yeah.
teachers from around the world sharing How do we step into sacred sexuality? How do we honor our period? How do we eat to help our hormones? Like all these things that normally your big sister would have taught you, but for generations, this chain's been broken. And it's my heart to bring back like this sacredness to the sisterhood, to what it is to be a woman, and to our connection with our wombs and our blood mysteries, because these are all gifts, and not meant to be these shameful, painful, horrific, traumatic things. And the time is now, and women are waking up. Women are ready for this. This is the amazing thing. Like, this is the time. Women are like hungry for more, and women know there's more, and women are seeking deeper wisdom, and it's coming forth. So it's an exciting time.
I agree. Everybody has to take back, I think in general, we have to take back control of our own bodies. So I think that you're right. The time is now. Well, this was fascinating. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your making the time to come on.
Thank you. It's an honor.
Hi, Edan. I'm so excited to have you back again. How are you?
Good, Baruch Hashem. Thank you so much. Excited to be here.
My pleasure. I always love everything that you've ever taught us. And I thought this was a great topic for you. Edan recently got married.
Yeah.
And I just felt like this could be a good topic.
I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think some people might find it a little bit controversial, but that's okay. We try to give people different options, different opinions, and people can sort through and figure out what's right for them. So some people may get taken aback a little bit about some of the things she said about the pill and things like that. But I know several people who really didn't tolerate it well. And I think everybody's body's different. So everybody has to figure out what works for them.
Exactly. And I think that that's the beauty of like being Jewish and learning Torah and tying it all in. Like we wouldn't have the Gemara if we didn't have controversy. We wouldn't have the Mishnah if we didn't have arguments and, conversations. That's the power of learning and growth. So to hear other perspectives is really important. So
that is so true. Really. I love that. Thank you.
Hashem.
So what'd you think?
Yeah, wow. I really loved it. Like, exactly. Like, from the perspective of seeking out the spirituality, like everything she said was spiritual in my eyes. And also as a newly married woman, as a woman in general, like, I think that there's so much revolving around our cycles and how we feel during our cycles, hormones during the cycles, and how we interact with the world, the medicine world in terms of that. I really loved, actually, she mentioned Lauren, right?
Yeah.
Lauren. So Lauren mentioned so beautifully that the womb can be seen as the third mind, the third brain of the body, right? Like the gut could be another brain where it indicates how our body's feeling. It sends messages. It sends through our nervous system. And she's really not wrong in saying that. Like Torah backs that up 100%. We know this, number one, because there's many midrashim and explanations in Jewish philosophy and Jewish thought that the baby actually in utero learns Torah. So literally the womb is a place of learning, growth, wisdom, not just wisdom of, sensing the world around them, but literally being attached to the spiritual world. And it's this beautiful channel that it's taught, through Jewish philosophy. So that's really, really beautiful that she sees that and that the body sends messages not only to the mother, but to the baby. And the baby carries that through. So it's also like in terms of male, female, whether you're a man or a woman, you've attained holy spiritual wisdom in the womb, whether you're the carrier or the one being carried. So that's really a beautiful image and fact in and of itself.
That's beautiful. That's so well said. And I wouldn't have thought of that, but you're right. We learn Torah and then we forget it when we're born, but that we learn it in utero. So
yeah. And so there's a part of us that exactly goes through that cycle as well, is that we spent the time in utero learning Torah, learning divine spiritual wisdom. And now we're given an opportunity, a rebirth, to learn that all over again and to pursue it constantly, right? So it's really a beautiful thing. Another fact about the womb through spirituality and Jewish wisdom is that the womb in Hebrew, the word for womb is rechem, resh chet mem. And that word shares the same root as the word rachamim, which translates to mercy. And I love this. This is one of my favorite Torah concepts because it's the plasticity, the incredible fluidity of words and what they come to teach us. And so understanding that the womb is a place of mercy. So it's a place we're supposed to find kindness and shelter and protection, not a place of rejection and frustration and difficulty, right? Like the way the world may see cramps and cycles and periods and all the taboo topics. It's not supposed to be a source of that. The womb, the rechem, if it is the ark for Torah and spirituality, then it definitely should be a place of safety and consolation, not a place of despair or disconnection. Like it's absolutely the opposite, especially reinforced through Jewish knowledge and Torah and connection. So I think that in understanding what Lauren's saying, we can learn from the womb. So absolutely, that's definitely backed up by Torah.
That's another really good one. I love, love, love all of these different situations where words share the same root. It's so powerful. To me, that is just such a powerful
Absolutely.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the power of Torah really is that also, we'll give another one is that Torah, like if you break up the word, it's to, which means it could be translated in modern Hebrew as an appointment, but it also means a turn. And hey is feminine. So Torah is not just like the Torah that connects to the word of learning and passing on life lessons, but it's also like her turn. I think that means like stepping into the feminine parts of ourselves. And we know that in the relationship also, this is brought down in the Gemara, this is brought down in Tanakh, that the Jews are like the feminine. We are the feminine aspect and God is masculine. Not to say that God isn't feminine as well, but because the relationship is mashpia and mekabel, that the Hashem is mashpia, which means the influencer, the giver, and we as Am Yisrael and really human beings, this is universal ideas that human beings are receivers, which makes sense. Like look at the world around us. We were born into this world to receive. All we do is receive. We don't really do anything now with human ingenuity. We're getting there, but we never could give in the way that God gives, and thank God, right? That's like we never want to reach that level because we can't, and it's a beautiful deep lesson to learn how to receive. This was also something that was brought up in the podcast of women being in their feminine and males being in their masculine, that really a woman gives to a man by accepting and a man really gets from a woman by giving. So it's like a beautiful cycle in that way, mishpia makabel, and it's reflected through the masculine and feminine energies, which were just micro expressions of that dynamic.
It might make a few people angry, but
whatever.
It sounded very similar to the episode I did on, men being too feminine today and women being too masculine. So it might push some people's buttons, but I think that there's a lot to be said in that. I learned a lot from that episode, and I think there's a lot to be said from what Lauren said and what you're saying as well.
Again, controversy is a tool for us to grow. And actually, I want to talk about specifically something that we're experiencing right now, which we're in the transition between the beginning of the month of Av, which is intense destruction, disparity through the destruction of the first and second Beit HaMikdash, the temples in Yerushalayim, and mourning that resting of divine presence among the world, which actually is feminine. So it's also like, I think to help balance out and counter that, like God is also seen as feminine and God is giving and, powerful in that way as well. And, but now we're transitioning from the beginning of Av, from Tisha B'Av to now Tu B'Av, which is actually this week, right? So it's so perfectly placed because if we're talking about cycles and interrupting cycles, keeping cycles, all of those things, whether it's through birth control, hormone control, or just consciousness, right? That's like a huge part of what we do in Jewish culture and in Jewish practice is we respect the cycle, but we know also when to transition from one to another. So we're transitioning right now from that intense, difficult, painful energy to now celebratory, beautiful, loving energy, because Tu B'Av is noted as the happiest day of the year, right? Which is incredible because we have so many other happy days, right? We have Purim, we have Yom Kippur, we have all these beautiful days. But Tu B'Av is celebrating love and unity. And there's a lot of reconnection. That's like the main part. There's a lot of different things that happen on Tu B'Av. It's not only about the love. It's also about returning work to the Beit HaMikdash. It's about tribes joining back together that weren't in the same regions. And I think I want to focus specifically on the quote. It's a line from Torah. We sing it also in davening on Shabbat, which is Hashivenu Hashem Elecha v'nashuva chadesh yaminu kekedem. And I think if we break up the line into two sections, it's actually the month of Av, like perfectly spelled out, right? So Hashivenu Hashem Elecha v'nashuva. So that's actually the first part of the month of Av, which is
Can you translate it for anybody who might not know what that means?
Yeah, my pleasure. Hashivenu Hashem is return us, God, like bring us to you. Elecha, that's to you. V'nashuva, and we'll come to you. So it's almost like this oxymoron, like bring us to you and we'll come close to you. But that's exactly the beautiful relationship between man and God, is that we actually have participation in that creative relationship, right? Like God brings us close to him, but we also take that step forward. So we're also stepping into a masculine in that way. Also, we too pursue that relationship. So return us, God, to you and we will return. And we also read it in Eicha, which is exactly, I never say it right. Lamentations. Lamentations, I mean.
Oh, Lamentations.
Sorry, right. That's Kohelet.
Yeah.
Eicha is this horrible like story of mourning and destruction. And so it's this call, this plea for returning. But then we have Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem, renew our days like of old. And that is the time of Tu B'Av, of bring us back to that loving state, bring us back to Song of Songs, right, written by Shlomo Melech, of pure love and unity between man and God, male and female, and also individuals with themselves, right? Return me back to the natural way, which I think Lauren was actually bringing up many times beautifully, is this is the way it's always been, like connecting to our bodies in the most natural way. And that's the true celebration, again, of reconnecting to not only what we hope it could be, to not only what it once was, but to a better reinstated version of that, right? So we have, of course, the natural ways of history, but it wouldn't be without modern technology and research and medicine that we would be able to have these discoveries. So Chadesh Yamenu Kekedem, which is like how it was, not totally how it was, but in the feeling and the connection and the authenticity that was then, bring that to now, but with today's lens, with our personal experience. And that, I think, is a really beautiful bracha, I hope to bring to myself and to you and to everybody listening, is that we take what was given to us and we pursue newness and goodness with that.
That's a wonderful bracha. I love it. And you're right. I didn't realize this is coming out, I think, the day after Tu B'Av. I think Tu B'Av is Tuesday night, Wednesday. So it's coming out, God willing, on Thursday. So, yeah. And it's also the time of the new moon.
Yeah.
Which also, when we talk about cycles, it's the time of the new moon. It's Tu B'Av also. So that was beautiful. Thank you so much. I really learned a lot. And that was wonderful. This podcast is for informational purposes only. Please seek guidance from a trusted healthcare professional. By listening to this podcast, you release Holy Health and all of its guests from all liability. I'd like to thank Yakir Abelo for editing this podcast.